If it wasn't official before, it is official now. Marcus Freeman has got a brand new Notre Dame kind of vibe out there. We're going to talk about it right now on the heels of a domination over Georgia, if you want to call it that, in the box score. But first things first, make sure you are subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. College football, nothing but college football. Notre Dame fans, had a lot of y'all get dialed in with us as of late. We appreciate you for that. If you haven't yet subscribed, man, no time about the present. Would love to have you a part of this thing. So I said domination because I think physically that's what it was when you check the trenches. But when Marcus Freeman got this job, man, you kind of caught the vibe a little bit that it was going to be a different Notre Dame outfit. Like you kind of got to gauge for the way they were doing recruiting pictures, as funny as it sounds. I think that was maybe a subtle hint. Like he kind of made Notre Dame cool again. That's 100% true. But Notre Dame is also like real deal tough. Like from where I'm standing, Notre Dame now has the price of admission to compete with anybody in college football on the line of scrimmage. And we got to see it last night, but that wasn't always the case, man. I talk about old Notre Dame in the context of what new Notre Dame is. Look at Notre Dame, what they were in that BCS title game against Alabama. Outrushed 265-32. I'm going to let that sit for a second. Against Clemson in the college football playoff. Outrushed 88-211. Okay, that's physical domination. Notre Dame obviously earned the spot in those games. I'm not telling you those teams weren't good, but when you got to the spots against real deal line of scrimmage outfits, you were not able to match it from a personnel perspective. Against Alabama in the college football playoff, the numbers were a little bit more even in the rushing yard department, but still out-personnelled. Final score 31-14. Last night was a line of scrimmage win. Outrushed Georgia 150-62. More sacks than Georgia, 4-1. Aggressive as heck from a game plan perspective, from a play style perspective. They were violent. If you needed evidence of that, your quarterback ran for 80 yards and Riley Leonard. But if you're a Notre Dame fan, if you're in that building in South Bend, you're like, I'm glad you got to see this. Maybe you don't have Peacock. Maybe you don't really watch NBC. But this is kind of who we've been all year. Like Notre Dame is one of the best teams in America when it comes to yards per play. Top 25 when it comes to yards per carry allowed, I believe. And I think it's so important, too, when you look at what last night was, that they got the filter, Notre Dame did, of having that Georgia team on the other sideline. Because if it was somebody else, I think there's maybe the built-in excuse for other folks in the college football public to say, yeah, well, but it was insert some lesser brand there, some lesser logo there. That was the standard in college football over the course of 2 of the last 3 years, talking about national championships. Like that was a team now in Kirby Smart that has made their name off of being the more physical team, being the tougher team, winning the trenches. And Notre Dame, to beat them at that game, again, this is a brand new Notre Dame team. What I just told you from that BCS title game, from the college football playoff games, different outfit. Notre Dame is now living in a world where they will not be out-personnelled in college football. That wasn't always the case. It is now. And I want to say this too. They did not arrive at this spot on accident. Like this wasn't a thing where the groundwork was laid and Marcus Freeman caught a couple breaks here. Like Marcus Freeman has said many different times since taking the job, they're going to challenge everything in South Bend. And it's great to say challenge everything. And it sounds awesome when you break it down during winter conditioning. It's phenomenal. Probably on a t-shirt, I'd buy it. But like they truly have lived by that mantra since he's gotten the job. I mean, just look at the hires that he's made. Look at the way they've acquired talent. At the quarterback position, who are you going to go get? We need a quarterback. Okay, Sam Hartman. Awesome. Great. That year ends. Coach, you got some guys on the depth chart. You want to go with them? Nope, we're going to challenge everything. Go get one of the better quarterbacks in the transfer portal, Riley Leonard. Challenge everything. We need an OC. Who do you go get? But a guy that has roots at Notre Dame, who led the top offense in college football more or less at LSU, who tutored the eventual Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels, challenge everything. So again, you're seeing Marcus Freeman here where he didn't have to go to the portal. He didn't have to go grab a Mike Denbrock. But the fact that he made it a point to go do that, to go reach at the top shelf and swing big, like that's why Marcus Freeman last night, in addition to a bunch of other things they've done internally, that's why they beat Georgia. That's why it looked the way that it did. So those are just microcosms of what last night was in my mind in terms of how they've challenged everything. But like they haven't just, this wasn't an accident. I want to make sure that's very, very clear. You're going to have people jump back and say, well, this was fluky. They scored, on the end of the half with a strip sack and, they had the kickoff run back. Yes, they did that because that's what good football teams do. Get a strip sack, turn it into a touchdown. You be aggressive. Run the opening kickback. Why? Because they blocked it up well. Because they were more prepared for that moment than Georgia. That's why they won. That's what happened. It's funny, too. This is, I think, as likable as Notre Dame has been since what, Rudy? Like, if we're going to be real here, like Notre Dame, it's funny, like that brand in itself, whether it's a where they're located thing, whether it's because they're not in a conference, whether it's the NBC thing, like there's not necessarily a large portion of the college football public traditionally that is looking to embrace Notre Dame. But going back to what I said at the top of this thing, this is a different Notre Dame team, both in how they play and just the optics in general. You got a quarterback who's a 3-star who comes from a basketball school who's trying to jump over people on 3rd and 7. Not telling you haven't had gritty quarterbacks at Notre Dame. Shout out Ian Book. But like the typical like golden boy kind of vibe you would think about with Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, takes a baseball bat to that narrative, to that archetype. Marcus Freeman, 38 years old. Dude turned down GQ, I have to imagine, to be the head coach of Notre Dame. Don't know if that's true, but that's the way it feels. Like, they lost to a G5 team in week 2. The story arc of this whole operation, the fact that they dropped that game to NIU, have to win out the rest of the way. Like, Notre Dame, I think, has a real rootability factor, and I don't think that impacts them when it comes to what they're going to be here the rest of the college football playoff. But speaking to what we're saying in this entire segment, this is a different Notre Dame team. There's a different vibe. It's easy to root for Marcus Freeman. It's easy to root for Riley Leonard, from where I'm standing at least. And you know what? You want to know how what Marcus Freeman has built in South Bend has some staying power. You want to know the mark of a good culture, what the players do when things go poorly, how the players interact when stuff hits the fan. NIU, man, I keep going back to this because I think it really matters. That game happens. Coach is going to say all the right thing. Like, Marcus Freeman at the podium is not going to put his foot in his mouth or wave the white flag or say something stupid. Not going to do it. Most head coaches, you would hope, wouldn't do that. The players, though, had every chance to do that. Not from the podium, but from what they do on the field. Because Notre Dame, say what you want, like, they didn't have a bunch of just layups the rest of the way. Say what you want about Army and Navy, like USC, it's a frisky team. Ask A&M about that. Talk about, the way they played Indiana in the first round of the college football playoff. There was no, oh, great, we just made it here, let's exhale. Like, there's a real deal resiliency and culture that I think you point to Marcus Freeman and say, that's what we've built here. That's who we are now. That's identity. And again, I don't know that that's necessarily like a thing that you point to traditionally at Notre Dame and say it's different, but I do think that you look at this team and say they had every opportunity to mail it, and they did not. So this Penn State game is going to be awesome. Going to be so fun. But make no mistake, like, regardless of what happens in the semifinal game, the win in itself over Georgia has a chance to be a tide turner for Marcus Freeman in this entire operation. He outcoached Kirby Smart. He oututilized his roster over Georgia, that I think is still one of the best rosters from a stars perspective in college football. Here's the thing. Look at the class rankings here for Marcus Freeman since 2022. Number 6 ranked class, number 10 ranked class, number 11th ranked class, number 12 ranked class. Say what you want about the number 6 ranked class because it was 2022. I understand he had just gotten the job. But understand, like, this has a chance now for Notre Dame to start breathing some different air on the recruiting trail. Because now you have an answer to the question when a recruit in the southeastern part of the United States says, why should I go to Notre Dame instead of an SEC school? And you can say, hey, you're more than welcome to. I totally get you might want to stay close to home. Totally understand. However, you watch that Sugar Bowl. You watch us advance to the Orange Bowl. You watch us be the more physically dominant team over that other logo that won the SEC. It's your choice. But don't for a second let the narrative seep into your subconscious that you can't accomplish everything you want to accomplish at Notre Dame. You can beat whoever you want. You can compete for whatever you want, get a great education, play for a dog of a head coach, play in a fun culture, wear a dope uniform, for my own 2 cents there. Like, Notre Dame has broken through the glass ceiling. They've slayed the narratives. They are a new outfit under Marcus Freeman. This is a new Irish. And I'll just say it to you, man, like, hey, I'm not a journalist. We just talk college football on this show. And Notre Dame, for me at least, is fun to root for with Riley Leonard and who Marcus Freeman is and who this Notre Dame team is. So I can't wait for that Orange Bowl when they play Penn State. Going to be a lot of fun. We'll have our prediction for you in that game here coming up on this channel. The best way to make sure you don't miss it, man, by being subscribed. Hey, appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.